Session number 3, about thinking patterns. Hello, welcome to therapy. This is your third session about low self-esteem. Let's talk about patterns of limited thinking and their influence on our self-perception today. Limited thinking patterns, also known as cognitive distortions, are patterns of reactions and other stereotyped behaviors that a person uses automatically. Instead of trying to make sense of any given situation and reacting individually to it, we often fall back on behavior models that we're simply used to using. And this is convenient at times. You know how we use our everyday verbal patterns like, oh, it's nice to meet you, and it was nice to talk to you. And just like these verbal patterns, we use our thinking patterns, which every time lead us to the same conclusions over and over. An equivalent of this situation would be a train always following the same route, always using the same rails, always arriving at the same destination. In our previous session, we learned that our thoughts have the power to influence our moods and behaviors. Our thoughts determine our reactions to this or that situation, and we automatically decide on how to act, to take revenge or to forgive, give up or finish the job. Most often, negative thoughts arise automatically. They often appear when our emotional state is fragile, when we're angry or in a bad mood. Problem is that negative patterns are generally hard to detect, which complicates the process of working with them. If only each time a negative pattern surfaced, we'd hear something like, "Oh, don't take it seriously. Oh, you're doing it again." But we're wired in a way that we genuinely believe that all our thoughts are objective. It may sound strange, but to some of us, thoughts like, "I'm a loser," and "the sun rises in the east" are equally objective. Isn't that alarming? When we choose patterns that lead to illogical thinking, we limit our thinking. Consider this example. You're talking to your friend, and all of a sudden you feel as if she's starting to put you into an awkward position, as if she's starting to put you down, when objectively her intent is positive. But because of your automatic pattern, you just can't see anything positive in her behavior. Cognitive behavioral therapy connects the following thinking patterns to low self-esteem. They are filtering, polarized thinking, overgeneralization, global labeling, mind reading, personalization, self-blame, control distortion, and the shoulds. Let's take a closer look at each pattern now. Get ready, because there's going to be a lot of information, but don't worry, because you'll get it all in order and in your head after completing the exercises. So let's start. The first pattern is called mental filtering. A person engaged in mental filtering takes all the negative details, magnifies them, while filtering out all the positive aspects of the situation. For instance, you had a piano recital and you did well overall, even though you made a couple of mistakes. When we begin filtering, we only see those mistakes and ignore the overall success. The second pattern is called polarized thinking. It's also known as all or nothing thinking. A person with this kind of mentality goes to extremes and cannot see any gray areas. Not only does the pattern affect the world outside, it also has a detrimental impact on us. Just imagine how hard it is to divide people into merely two categories all the time, black or white, good or bad. To feel extremely happy one second and then utterly miserable the next. The worst is that this thinking pattern is also taking all the mistakes straight to the heart. For instance, a woman with polarized thinking has forgotten to buy something at a grocery store, and she immediately attacks herself for being so stupid and forgetful. The third pattern is overgeneralization. People prone to this kind of thinking blow situations way out of proportion. Say you had a bad date. If you overgeneralize, you may think that you're unattractive and you'll never get another date for your whole entire life. And no, not only teenagers tend to overgeneralize. By the way, people with overgeneralization usually get angry more frequently than those who use more realistic and accurate language. Keep that in mind. The fourth pattern is called labeling. It's a cognitive distortion in which we generalize by taking one characteristic of a person and apply it to the whole person. For instance, because I failed a test, I am a failure. Because she's frequently late for work, she's irresponsible. If someone responded in a brusque way, he's a jerk. The next pattern is called mind reading. It's also known as jumping to conclusions. It's when we think that we know better what the others feel and think. We may think, I know he did that to drive me crazy, or she's acting this way because of the fight last night. In the same way, we assume what other people think of us. She looked at me that way because she wants to make me feel bad. As a result, we make false conclusions and put ourselves in an awkward position. Pattern number 6 is personalization. Personalization is a distortion where a person believes that everything others do or say is in some way a direct and personal reaction to them. They literally take everything personally, even when something is not meant in that way. A person who experiences this kind of thinking will also compare his or herself to others, trying to determine who is smarter or who is better looking. People engaging in personalization may also see themselves as the cause of some unhealthy external events that they were not even responsible for. For example, we were late to the dinner party and caused everyone to have a terrible time. If I had only pushed my husband to leave on time, this wouldn't have happened. Can you see how that person has already taken the blame on herself? And this leads us to self-blame. That's pattern number 7. This cognitive distortion causes people to beat themselves up for things that are way beyond their control. They love using the I could have, I would have, I should have. These people are overly responsible and apologize practically for everything. It can be a colleague's mistake that this person should have noticed, or an accident that happened because this person thinks, if I'd only told him to stay at home, he wouldn't have gotten hit by a bus. It's all my fault. Pattern number 8 is control fallacies. This distortion involves two different but related beliefs about being in complete control of all situations in our lives. In the first instance, we may feel externally controlled and see ourselves as helpless victims of fate. For example, oh, my boss demanded that I work on this overtime, but I can't help it. The quality of this work is so poor. On the contrary, when we experience fallacy of internal control, we assume responsibility for the pain and happiness of everyone around us. We may think, why aren't you happy? Is it because of something I did? The last distortion on our list is called the should statements. It's when you think something like, I should be skinnier. Every one of us has a list of strict rules about how every person should behave. Imagine that you're a person following your own set of strict rules. What will happen if someone goes against your shoulds? Most probably, you'll get angry. But what if you go against your own set of rules? You'll probably feel really guilty. So if another person breaks your rule, you'll feel anger, frustration, resentment. But if you break your own rule, you'll probably feel guilty, at least to some extent. We may think that these shoulds motivate us and help us move forward in life, but that's not really the case. Letting go of our shoulds may do us a world of good. Wow, now we're done with our list of limited thinking patterns. Can you already relate to any of the mentioned patterns? Do you filter, overgeneralize, or maybe you're a shoulds person? No worries if you haven't identified your patterns yet. Doing the exercises will help you. You see, each one of those patterns has its own set of keywords and phrases that will help you identify them. So go on ahead and complete the next exercise.